America to have any louder voice because they pay more money. Do you understand? So that's the way it works. And we're all paying to support this beast at the end of the day. And we've got to understand that. And we've got to understand the forces we're up against, that their diabolism knows no limits. The sky's the limit, okay? Knows no bounds. These people are willing to do anything. And murder is not off the table. Mass murder, whatever it takes to keep their position in place, their lot in this temporal. See, I mean, they're insane. They're living just for this little bit of time that we have, this little bit of very insecure time that we have. We could all be dead today. But that's how these people, that's the monster they've latched on. That's the beast. That's satanic. That is demonic. That's what they've latched onto. That's all they care about. So yeah, these people there's no holds barred. Everything's on the table. Okay? They'll use any methods that they can to keep us duped and deceived and on this trajectory toward hell, death and destruction. Just keep believing somehow it's going to work. Just keep beating your head against the wall. You beat it on the 10 billionth in one time, and that's when it's finally going to turn around and work. The system will work. We're just going to keep trying the same thing again and again and again. We'll keep bailing out the criminal banksters, quantitative easing, and all this crap that they do. Bail out the criminals, never just the regular people out there. You know, always Wall Street, never Main Street. Oh, these people are too big to fail. If they failed, I mean, gee, America, that's America. It's like saying America would fail, too big to fail. That means they're too big to jail. Of course, they can get away with all these horrendous white-collar crimes because Whitewater, it comes to mind. Freudian slip, Slick Willie. Whatever happened to that Slick? Notice how you let Glass-Steagall Act expire. Suddenly that disappeared. I don't trust these people as far as I can throw them. They're criminals. They're traitors. They're backstabbers. I have no regard for these people, even though they're my brothers and sisters, so I've got to love them. I've got to watch my tongue when it comes to them. But I've got to tell them, look, you repent or perish. You're on the highway to hell. Confess your sins toward the world. If your sins affected the world, Slick Willie, then you've got to admit letting that expire was a big mistake. And speak how that was, you were pretty much single-handedly, directly responsible for what that leading up to '08. Because Baby Bush didn't do a damn thing. He just encouraged it. Oh, these terrorists, they hate us because you're all investors and capitalists. And so go out there, we're green lighting you, get reckless, do whatever you want. So the banks, they all got the green light. Could dump money on the market, raise the real estate costs, just whatever. And I promise you'll get it all back. We've socialized. You're insured. See here? Promise. Take my word. Take the word of the beast for gospel. So it's a done deal. Those 8 years of Bush, and this is what we got. I mean, Obama, I mean, a perfect puppet for these people. He voted for, look at the names of the people that voted for that bailout of '08, even though 90% of the American people were against it. And then we wonder how America got into this mess. Do we ask how can we stop it in its tracks? I'm telling you, the only hope is something like a basic income. And as far-fetched and you think unlikely that's going to happen, you tell me, then you come up with your own solutions. Will you at least admit that a perpetually growing cost of living tax is untenable? And it's certainly not a good thing, contrary to popular belief, apparently, that people think, oh, well, it's just normal, go with the flow, and, you know, cost of living, inflation. We all know that it's just the economy, it's just capitalism, and you're what are you, un-American, uncapitalistic? You know, see, people are insane. So they tell you even though they themselves have to pay a lot more, their burden is a lot greater. But they never stop to think because they say they know other people are really suffering a lot more under the burden. You understand? It's like the pinprick, either a pinprick or we're going to jab a spike in your arm. So they know. So they say, you know what? I'm going to close my eyes to what this guy's saying, okay? Because it might be true, but it hurts my head, and I don't want to believe I'm that deluded, that delusional, that I put that much faith and trust. I'm that invested in this system, the establishment status quo, that I'm really that evil. So you understand what's going to happen here? A lot of people are inadvertently going to find themselves in hell just from not caring, not loving their fellow man enough. Because the key is if they love their fellow man, the weakest among us, then they would love Jesus. And conversely, by not doing that, they don't love Jesus. And so if you don't love Jesus for saying he's the least of men, even though he's the Son of God, and getting that, so you've got to get it. You got to be that person too. Be willing to be that representative, that reflection, that mirror to humanity to find your way into heaven. Jesus said that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, you shall certainly not find your way to heaven, enter the kingdom of heaven. You got to be like little children, innocent little kids. What do kids care about money? They just care about having their needs met. All the toys, that's gravy. You understand? So, I was just thinking, well, I took a little break there to warm up my coffee. That, I had never heard of a heightist. But then these people that are making fun of people's height, I looked up heightist. Is that actually a term? And sure enough, there are people that discriminate based on height. And they're called heightists. Then I thought of another one, with Trump calling these women, horse face and this. Is there such a thing as a facist? But, I need to look that up. I don't know. Not to be confused with fascist, but a facist, right? Somebody that discriminates on somebody's facial appearances. And if there's not a word called a facist, then there ought to be one. Maybe I just invented a word, but it probably already exists. But, Trump needs to think of a more sophisticated method of criticizing his opponents, okay? Because that's not good. And what happened with Elizabeth Warren, he put his foot in his mouth, and he's got to at least pay the $1 million, okay? Come on, to a multi-billionaire, you give the woman's charity $1 million if it's one that you can both agree on at least, so, okay. I'm not given to Planned Parenthood, whatever a charity he finds objectionable. Not that I guess that's a quasi-charity type thing, right? But, you really got to watch your tongue. And I would say, look, just if you apologize, then it might make it harder. It might make it easier not to say it the next time. That's it. And that's what an apology. That's why I'm apologizing to Alex Jones and Owen Schroyer, because, hey, you know something? Look, my dad was hard on me. His dad was hard on him, and so on. As you get it. I mean, so I don't know how Owen's dad was with him and his attitude and stuff about stuff, but my dad, he didn't let me get away with squat, and I kind of, even though we could disagree, I had to be exceedingly diplomatic and tactful in how I approached my dad with my departure from his belief system. Okay. Very tactful, So because he lived with this disease called multiple sclerosis since he was in his 30s. So he was not the easiest man in the world to live with. And, that it's a double-edged sword. It's tough walking on eggshells your whole life on one side, but then on the other side, you get brought up like a man if you're a boy, and and my sisters, I mean, they can speak for themselves what they think about my dad and how he disciplined and raised us, but he wasn't particularly abusive, and I think he lost it a couple times. I ever got spanked or got belted. I think he felt guilty about it, and I every time I spanked my daughters when they were kids, it was because I lost it. I could never do it on the method, even at the church I was going to, Seventh-day Adventist church. They were talking about at least that particular preacher was saying that you plan it out. If you're going to use corporal punishment on your kids, you plan out a spanking. And I just that didn't agree with my nature. I'm not that person. I can't premeditate. I don't. It doesn't work for me, because otherwise I just would never have spanked my daughters, and I don't believe it. I think it's wrong. Corporal punishment is always wrong, I believe. So. But nevertheless, there's ways to help somebody to understand when they're wrong. It's just like you've got to take any steps necessary to make sure somebody's not going to screw up sometimes. Like when you're teaching your kid about the dangers of walking out in front of a car, right? I mean, if you needed to spank them, you wouldn't hesitate. I mean, any parent, even when you don't believe in spanking, you'd use every tool in your tool bag, basically. Okay, every arrow in your quiver to make sure they understood the dangers involved, because they're literally life and death. So of course you're going to do everything in your power. So it's kind of like that. I was kind of raised that way, and I kind of got that way on my own just from taking life seriously, from reading the scriptures, from empirical life's evidence, living, observation, wisdom, inviting wisdom in and truth and understanding about stuff. And I've turned into kind of a really serious, sober minded guy. And it's who I need to be in order to have any semblance of feeling free in my own mind, even because I'm just like everybody else. I don't have an exemption, a waiver. I don't get to opt out of this beast system. So I still got to pay my dues to keep surviving. So to a degree, I guess I'm still a hypocrite because I choose to survive and feed the beast.